Bitcoin is primed for a breakout on tailwinds that we've never seen before in this industry. Obviously, that alludes to institutional and government adoption. And of course, the Fed definitely cutting rates tomorrow and likely more times into 2025. We got a bunch of new ETFs that launched over the past couple of days. Spoiler, they've been really successful. And of course, we have stablecoin news across the board, and we'll discuss my interview with Michael Saylor. Let's go.
Let's go.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to YouTube. If you have not liked the video, you should go ahead and do that. If you have not subscribed to the channel, you should also go ahead and do that. In case you missed it, I was in Las Vegas to interview Michael Saylor. I also interviewed Ivan Soto-Wright, the CEO of MoonPay. Randomly went on Sin City Crypto, did a couple other things while I was out there, and of course had a delayed flight, landed at 1:30 in the morning, went to bed at 2, woke up at 4:30. So if you're wondering why my brain seems scattered and I'm a little tired, it's because I've probably gotten as much sleep as most people get in one night in the last 3 days. But let's dive into the show right now. And first, I think it's worthy to talk about the conversation that I had with Saylor. We will be releasing this on my channels on Sunday as a podcast, maybe Saturday or Sunday as a podcast. So you can either watch it on Saylor's X right here, or you can wait and listen to it on my channels. We'll also be obviously editing in some of the other amazing footage from that conference and my thoughts. But here's what Saylor had to say about it. In my discussion yesterday at Money 2020 with Scott Melker, I explained why digital credit instruments like STRK, STRF, STRD, STRC are 2 to 4 times more efficient than traditional credit, and how strategy has become the world's most scalable, tax-efficient generator of fixed income. So I'm going to give you a few takeaways from this conversation if you didn't watch it, and I can give you some inside baseball on the very brief prep that we did for this call. And prep for this call meant that Saylor we sat down on Friday virtually, and he shared a couple decks and said, these are the general kind of ideas that I would like to go with, especially for this audience. So what I really noticed and what struck me in our conversations and here, because we did actually just wing it, there was obviously no slide decks or anything, and I just asked him the questions I wanted to ask, was that this was a rare time when Saylor and myself, as a fireside chat, were headlining a conference that was not really a crypto conference at all. Money 2020 is a fintech and payments conference, the biggest in the world. Really, really TradFi, really tech, and really generally not crypto. But in this case, when you walked into the conference floor, the first booth you saw on the right was Ripple. There was a huge Circle booth. There was a huge Fireblocks booth. As I said, there were quite a few speakers. And on every stage, when I walked past, the word that I heard over and over again was stablecoins. But when Saylor and I decided what we were going to do about this conversation, and then when we got up on stage, it was very clear that right now he doesn't have much interest in talking about strategy stock and very minimal interest actually in talking about Bitcoin itself. The narrative now is all of the financial instruments and all of the products that can be built on top of Bitcoin, and really finding new and innovative ways to create better products for institutional and retail investors that don't exist. So this talk was mostly about wildly over-collateralized fixed income products that they're creating, like STRC. You get 10% yield on STRC versus a 2 or 3% maybe in a money market or in your bank account, even sub 1% sometimes, how safe that is, where that yield comes from. And when you actually, adjust for taxes, it's like 17%. And why wouldn't people want products like that? And this was really engaging for the audience. I think they expected him to go up there and just scream about buying Bitcoin. The other funny takeaway was that He was talking about, maybe it was 3 hours before our talk. We were in the press room. I was not with him. And I saw him over talking to Mackenzie from CNBC. I just went over to say hi. And she said, "Hey, are you going to roast Saylor today? You're going to roast him?" I was like, "No, I don't think I'm going to roast him." She said, "Well, you got to ask him tough questions." And I said, "All right, I'm just going to make the entire interview about XRP." That's what I said. He laughed. She laughed. And then he said to me something really interesting. He said, "Scott, we should do it. But I think if we had a conversation right now about altcoins and the rest of the market, you would find my opinion has changed and that it would be very constructive." So even our most ardent Bitcoin maxi, and you've seen it, he praising Tom Lee and talking about what's happening in the treasury space, even beyond Bitcoin, a little more open-minded and certainly starting to evolve. So that's a conversation I would actually look forward to having in the future. But moving on to the market, and from Michael Saylor, we've got the S&P is 100 points away from 7,000, and everyone is fearful, apparently. Really just a sign of the times right now. You can look. This is the SPX chart. Oh, look, I got some alerts from buying Solana and Ethereum using Arch Public this morning. But take a look. 6,890. It topped at over 6,900 yesterday, making new all-time highs every single day. And apparently we are living in fear, which absolutely blows and boggles my mind. But I think, and if you watch Macro Monday, you would know this, I think that people are very confused. Half of the investors in the world think we're in the fourth turning and going into a Great Depression, while the other half think that recessions have been made illegal and we can only go up in price. But of course, a lot of this has to do with the Fed FOMC decision at 2 p.m. Look at him. Is it that way? Hard to do it with the mirror. But yeah, we have an FOMC decision at 2. Are you bullish or bearish? I think that this is wildly priced in. Personally, we all know that the Fed's going to probably cut a few more times this year. That was a terrible link. But here you go. Markets are pricing in a 99.5% chance of a Fed rate cut to 3.754% at tomorrow's FOMC meeting. CME FedWatch data shows 99.5. That's 1 in a million. What was all that 1 in a million talk? So you're saying there's a chance. Do I have any Dumb and Dumber fans out there? So yeah, there's a 50 bips. You sound smarter when you say bips instead of percentages. Chance that the Fed doesn't cut. So I think that once again, it's not going to be about what the Fed decision does. Everybody knows exactly what they're going to do. What it's actually going to be is whether he coughs in the wrong direction, or if he rubs his nose or gives a single signal, much like the illegal gambling ring that everybody's apparently been busted for of late. But it's going to be if he's hawkish, or if he's dovish, or if he talks about future cuts, or if he says that we're being data dependent, or all of the stupid word salad that we're so used to from Jerome Powell, to make sure that he gives us no clear direction about anything that's coming, period, even when we want it. But this will be the big thing today, and you can expect maybe some volatility, although I would imagine, we go like up 0.5%, down 0.5%, end up at the same price, and then nothing happens. But meanwhile, we do know there's going to be a lot of liquidity coming in. We've seen the reports that QT is ending this week, which means QE. And every indication that we have is that the Fed is about to go on a massive mission of money printing, make sure that they can send that national debt at least 40 trillion, because what's 38? It's not even a round number. Got to get that national debt up. And all of those things should be very, very good for Bitcoin. Honestly, I think I saw a tweet. I don't know if we brought it up, but this is, I think, the third time in history that the Fed has ever cut into an all-time high stock market. And every time that that's happened, the market's been up 10, 15% by a year later. So generally, if you're zoomed out and looking at this, you can expect that assets are probably going to go up. But maybe the biggest news in the crypto space right now is that we got a whole bunch of new ETFs, right? So new crypto ETFs launch in crowded field despite SEC shutdown. We don't need the government to start trading ETFs in crypto. That's ridiculous. Wonder when they're going to end that whole government shutdown thing. Anecdotally, I can tell you that I was in the Las Vegas airport yesterday. Didn't seem like there were many people working at TSA. It is at least the 14th circle of hell in that place. it's just absolutely horrid, and they need to unshut down the government. Actually, you know what? That has nothing to do with the government shutdown. Vegas is just one of the worst places on earth, at least in the Vegas airport. But we got BSOL, the Bitwise Solana staking ETF, which is a big deal because we've been waiting for staking inside ETFs, and we still don't have an Ethereum staking ETF. We also got an H-bar ETF, which I know everybody was very, very excited about. I saw the H-bar price had gone up like 16%. But yeah, man, we're starting to see it. I think we're getting the Grayscale Solana ETF launching today. And listen, we were wondering, hey, will there be any hunger for these? Will anybody want these things? BSOL ETF sees 69.5 million in net inflows on its first day. It's a big number. You don't think that's a big number because we always talk about Bitcoin spot ETF numbers, but holy hell. The Bitwise Invest Solana ETF set a new New York Stock Exchange record today, number one in trading volume across all 850 ETF debuts in 2025. So yes, we remember how successful the Bitcoin spot ETF launches were. This pales in comparison, obviously, to those. And then even ETH A, I think, was larger than this, but those were in 2024. So in 2025, of all 850 ETFs that have debuted, the Solana ETF was the most successful. So I would think that's an indication that there's been an appetite for these things. I didn't think there was going to be so much excitement about these because we have so many Solana treasury companies already, and that kind of preempted the ETF approval, but very clear that there is still a thirst for this. And we're also, if you're wondering why we could be primed for a breakout here, I brought this up the other day. Spooky season, Bitcoin options worth record 31 billion set to expire on Halloween. We tend to see some volatility when we have the expiry, but you also kind of see price suppression very often in the week leading up to it. I would say we're trading in a very tight range right now, and then things tend to go up. And another indication, Bitcoin funding, Binance funding rates turn positive. Is a new rally beginning? Love that we have to have these questions when Bitcoin's like 115 grand or 112 or 113. Like, it's a really high price. Like, people think we're in a bear market. It's crazy. Binance funding rates turn positive as a new rally beginning. Since October 22, 2025, the metric has stayed positive, suggesting renewed support for Binance. Bitcoin, I literally can't even read the words Bitcoin and Binance right now. I'm so tired. Recovery on both spot and derivatives markets. But you can see that price tends to follow when we have this metric going positive, and that is the case right now. I would say a lot of this, obviously, when you look at Binance, also has to do with people re-entering after everybody was liquidated. Now, we have a lot of news here on stablecoins. With 135 billion of U.S. Treasuries, Tether is now the 17th largest holder of U.S. debt, passing also South Korea. Soon Brazil. Watch out, Brazil. We're coming for you. But yeah, I think it's fair to say after being at Money 2020 that stablecoins are the killer app for crypto technology. And if only there was some guy who shows up on YouTube and has literally been saying that for like 5 years. This guy, what has 2 thumbs and has been talking about stablecoins. This guy. But yeah, man, stablecoins are eating the financial system. I showed you that stat the other day that stablecoin volumes was 46 trillion, I think, last year, 46, 48, somewhere in that ballpark. 3 times the Visa network and over half of ACH in the literal like world financial system. And that was before the Genius Act and before people even knew what stablecoins were. Tether is going to absolutely explode, and they will end up being one of the probably top 5 largest holders of U.S. debt. Stable coins, for better or for worse, and no matter what Bitcoiners want to believe, they are hyper fiat, hyper dollarization of the world. It's kind of like the antithesis of Bitcoin, to be honest. The good news is that Paolo is a Bitcoiner, and Tether buys a whole lot of Bitcoin and mines a whole lot of Bitcoin, and they really love Bitcoin. But make no mistakes, stable coins are helping the fiat that Bitcoin is meant to rage against. And in other stablecoin news, shit I did not see on my bingo card literally ever. Western Union to launch USDpt. You down with USDpt? You know what I mean? Stablecoin on Solana in 2026. So first of all, like Western Union, I'm pretty sure still is the Pony Express. Like they guys on horses and carriages just run on down to the next town and deliver your money. But Western Union's been around for 4,792 years. Don't quote me on that. But Western Union is like the oldest predatory middleman payments company on the planet. They charge you like 10, 15% to send your money, remittances. This is a very, very popular service, obviously, mostly, unfortunately, for people who can't afford to pay those absolutely ridiculous fees. And why would you in a world where there's stable coins? But they're launching a stable coin, which means they saw what happened to Kodak and Blockbuster, and they don't want to be those guys. But they're doing it on Solana. If ever you finally wanted an indication that, maybe the Solana thing isn't just meme coins and nonsense and speculation and traders, this is the part that wasn't on my bingo coin, because we've seen everybody talk about ETH for decisions like this and announcements. A Western Union stablecoin on Solana. This is about as big of a signal, I think, for the stablecoin space and world that you can possibly get. This actually broke, I think, at Money 2020. The Western Union CEO said this while we were there. The thing is, I actually don't care about conferences or what people are saying at them. I kind of hate them a little bit. I was only convinced to go, obviously, because Saylor asked, and that seemed like a really cool opportunity and something to do. But like, I don't know how people just like sit in the audience of conferences when every piece of information you're seeing is readily available on the internet, and you can sit there in your underwear and like listen to podcasts, which is like, these are live podcasts that are planned, but I digress. But yeah, this was announced at that conference. And of course, Visa to expand stable coin support across 4 blockchains. Another company that is pretty screwed when it comes to stable coins. As I told you, stable coins last year 3x'd the Visa network already. But Visa has been a bit ahead of the curve for quite a while here, trying to adopt this technology, knowing that it's going to disrupt their whole shit. Like, these companies are so screwed unless they use stablecoins, and stablecoins are so easy to integrate. And we're seeing different ways for everybody to integrate them, right? Like Circle's building their own layer 1 ARC to do it. Stripe is building their own layer 1 to do stablecoins. And every one of these companies is now needing a stablecoin plan, because why the hell would you ever like use ACH or Swift when I can send you $5 with no fees right now? Good luck wiring $5 to your buddy in Tanzania through the banking system. That is not going to work. Visa getting on board, staying on board here. Now we got to talk about a little bit of politics. Senate Democrats are butthurt. No, that's not what it says. Senate Democrats are butthurt? No, moving to condemn Trump's pardon of CZ. Like, how do you move to do it? They say a crypto industry executive getting a free pass after a guilty plea sends the wrong signal. I didn't even look who signed it. Like, what's the point? We know it's all Elizabeth Warren one way or another. You can have your feelings on CZ and his pardon, but like at the end of the day, the dude literally pled guilty to a violation of the Bank Secrecy Act by not putting the proper precautions in place for Binance to deal with money laundering. Nobody's ever gone to jail for something like that before. JP Morgan and Wells Fargo have paid tens of billions of dollars in penalties for doing much worse stuff within the Bank Secrecy Act, for, I don't know, being Epstein's banker, and for wild violations, and for laundering money, literally for cartels and criminals all around the world. But yeah, it's a big deal that CZ didn't run Binance in a way that they thought was appropriate in a world where the laws to do it for Binance didn't even exist. And oh, by the way, the dude is not American. But anyways, they're super butthurt about CZ, obviously. And you may have seen this tweet from Elizabeth Warren. I'll start there. CZ pleaded guilty to a criminal money laundering charge and was sentenced to prison. But then he financed President Trump's stablecoin and lobbied for a pardon. Today he got it. If Congress does not stop this kind of corruption, it owns it. Okay. Cool story, bro. You might notice there's a little community note down there. And if you're wondering how that community note happened, is because I posted this, well, this part of it. I posted this tweet that went wildly viral, and then I submitted it to our people at Twitter for a community note. Maybe. Shame on you, Senator. CZ Binance did not plead guilty to money laundering. He pled guilty for causing Binance to violate the Bank Secrecy Act by failing to implement an effective anti-money laundering program. Ocean of difference between the two. She's such a disingenuous butthole. She's so unlikable, but she can't even make a point by telling the truth. It's not what happened. And you can be mad about it. And to be honest, like, I can see if people look at it and there is a relationship with Trump, but I think the timing was bad. I don't think the optics of this are great for Trump. I think they make things more difficult for the industry. But let's not lie about what the dude did or what he got punished for. And once again, yes, he's getting pardoned, but he already went to jail and they already paid all of the fines. So in the comments, we had a lot of people being like, hey, CZ, you should maybe sue or something. Binance founder CZ to file defamation lawsuit against anti-crypto U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren if she does not retract her false statements. Listen, I'm only taking very minimal credit for this, obviously. I might have pushed him a little bit, but like getting Fire Gary Gensler trending for months and having any little bit of making Elizabeth Warren have a bad day, maybe like outside of marriage and having children, the greatest accomplishments of my very long career here in life and in crypto. But it would be absolutely just astoundingly amazing if this actually happens. I don't care if he wins. I just want her to have to deal with it. I want to know that she woke up this morning and was like, God damn it, I should not have sent that tweet. I was so stupid. Why did I do that? I knew I was lying. Right? Like, doesn't it just like, and I'm not someone who like takes joy in other people's unhappiness unless those other people are Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler. And I know that Gary Gensler will wake up some morning and be like, damn it, get this hashtag out of here. Oh man, this woman out of control. Okay, moving on from a Lizzie. Justin, Germany's second largest party, AfD, yeah, you know me, introduced a motion to build a Bitcoin reserve. Sweet. Listen, I don't know if these things pass, but there's obviously some serious momentum right now around the strategic Bitcoin reserve narrative in multiple countries all over this amazing world of ours. And it's not just them. Not just them. French lawmakers to review motion to ban CBDCs and promote Bitcoin stablecoins and national crypto reserves. Could France become Europe's next crypto hub? Probably not, because France, like from what I hear, and nothing against the French people, but I hear France just sucks right now. Most places suck right now, if we're being fair. So I don't want to be unfair to France, but like people I know who live in France are like, this sucks. So I'm just going to take their word for it as opposed to my own. But obviously, Germany and France, those are, last time I checked, those are pretty big countries that matter. And whether these things pass or not, the fact that this is now on the docket shows exactly the Trump effect of the executive order of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And for any who have not been following, the United States like has a pretty big strategic Bitcoin reserve right now because we're the United States. And when we want to get Bitcoin, we just go take it from people and then we keep it. Doesn't even matter whose it is. It's amazing. Like, we're like, hey, there's this Cambodian guy and he's doing a scam on people around the world, none of which are probably American. And he's also a Chinese national. We're just going to take his Bitcoin. We're going to hold on to that for you forever. It's good to be the United States. It's good to be the king, as we know. And Australia, which is not only a country, but a continent. I learned that in middle school. Australia's financial regulator has released long-awaited crypto guidance. It says Bitcoin and some NFTs aren't financial products, while stablecoins, tokenized securities, and staking services are. And honestly, Australian news just gives us one more excuse to quote Dumb and Dumber, as I did earlier, and say, put another shrimp on the Barbie. Yeah, Austria, you guys have seen Dumb and Dumber, right? I don't need to go any deeper into this. But we have three of the largest economies in the world talking about crypto in a 24-hour period. You guys might want to get some of this stuff, like just in case it catches on. You might want to consider grabbing some of this stuff. And of course, before we do have Chris today, so I'm gonna bring him on in a minute, but we gotta tell you about Aptos first. Hundreds of millions flowing in, over 1 billion now on chain, made to move money. Everyone will learn there's no better home for stable coins than Aptos. Top stablecoin supply changes. Aptos, the third largest for stablecoins right now on the planet. Might want to start using these stablecoin things just in case they catch on. Pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal. Before I bring Chris on, the one last thing I wanted to talk about, I got asked this question so many times at Money 2020, which was strange. And I did do a podcast there where I was the guest. And people, actually, I'm just going to bring Chris on. We're going to talk about this really quick before we go. No, because I've had a lot of people ask, the 4-year cycle, and are we still in a bull market, or is this a bear market? And people very confused about sentiment. And I thought pretty deeply about this, and I gave it a couple times. This has been, for most people, the worst bull market ever. Right?
Yeah.
So I think, unless you're an expert trader, which very few people we know are, but generally, if you had a plan for this cycle, or you've seen Bitcoin go from 17,000 up to 126,000, unless you were simply one of those people who dollar cost averages and buys Bitcoin and waited and are just holding and have been a smart investor, almost everybody has found a creative way to lose a shit ton of money in this bull market again. And like, we didn't have an FTX or a Celsius or any of those things necessarily, but it's very hard to find someone who's been around for a long time who's made money. And that's because first, Bitcoin went up and altcoins kind of haven't, right? So all the people who are waiting for like their altcoin to finally make its 100x move that they've been holding since 2017, that just hasn't happened. So we didn't get the alt season as of yet that many anticipated. And then we had this massive treasury company trend. And so all the like real crypto people, like I'm talking about the billionaire investors, even those guys. And I was talking to James Lavish about this. They went heavily into treasury companies, watched the stocks go way up. But by the time they actually had shares, they're all underwater. So everybody's losing money on Wall Street right now too. And everybody who bought the IPOs of all of these crypto companies that have done exceptionally well in a vacuum, they're all down because they bought it like the first couple of days. So everybody's getting wrecked in the stock market on crypto stocks, even though they've performed. And then we have the largest liquidation event in history, 12 times bigger than FTX. So all the crypto degen people who were deeply in leverage and on these got liquidated on everything.
Yeah.
Some bull market, really fun. Great times.
Yeah. What's funny about it is if you look, if you zoom out to your weekly or monthly chart, if you get out of all that other stuff, if you're in Bitcoin, I mean, you're just moving up, right? I mean, you're moving up and then you're sideways, and then you're moving up and then you're sideways, right? This monthly chart, right, or this weekly chart right here shows everybody's been freaking out since the liquidation event you mentioned here. And what have we done? We are sitting on that previous support here, or resistance, right, which was in this area and this area. Support here, still support here, and currently attempting to push out above the previous support here, resistance area. I mean, when you zoom out, you've got Bitcoin here pulling back on the RSI right about the same level it's pulled back on every a pullback here since we got going right off the bear market low here. You pulled back here. That's
the weekly, right?
Yeah, this is the weekly. Yeah. And every time it pulls back right around the same area.
Incredible that RSI can pull back with price at like 113. Yeah, on a weekly, right? It used to be that like for weekly RSI to move, you have to have huge moves, and we can just kind of go sideways and have RSI reset even on high time frames. It's pretty, shows you a lot.
And something else I saw on crypto Twitter here, man, God, it's such a, I got to be honest, a lot of the stuff that passes as analysis is really just nonsense, and I feel really bad for people that are just trying to get going and trying to understand analysis. I saw somebody say, "Oh yeah, we need to drop below that liquidation event, and then our weekly RSI will reset at 0, and then we can go up." And I'm thinking, it hasn't reset. It hasn't gotten below like that 48 area the entire bull run for years here. Why do you all of a sudden think it needs to drop down to zero, right? I mean, it's even the simple analysis like that that's really killing traders out there. And and the traders don't know. They're listen, we're highly emotional, right? You and me, Scott, everybody else, we're highly emotional. That's what, that's part of what makes us human. We have emotions. And when you do that and you come into something where you have money on the line and you're not sure what you're doing, right? Because you really have no education, you have no experience especially, it's easy to get caught up in the nonsense that's pushed on social media, and you end up just losing money. And it's really unfortunate because people are losing money that they don't need to lose. Again, as always, it's that emotion. Everybody out there thinks it's Wall Street manipulating them. They think it's crypto whales stealing their money. But at the end of the day, it's really just they're losing the battle with themselves, with their emotion. That is, the number one most important thing you have to figure out, because you can have great risk management. You can understand how to read liquidity flows in the market, all this stuff we teach. But at the end of the day, if you can't get past your own emotions, you're not going to be able to do it, because it's going to force you to do things you shouldn't be doing. And it ends up, again, like you were saying, you're losing money in a bull market. But I just want to bring this up because that weekly, we're right around that area where it usually pops if we get the pullback. We're sitting right between these two, this resistance and this support right here, trying to push out higher. We've got Jerome Powell who's going to be speaking today. We've got options. I think you mentioned that earlier, coming up, expiry coming up this week, at the end of this week. There's a lot going on here. And the thing is, with the government shutdown, a lot of the big money trades based on, these government numbers. I know on crypto Twitter, everybody likes to talk about how they're all fake numbers or whatever. That doesn't matter. What matters is the big money is trading based on them. And when you don't have those government numbers in there, you get what we have now, which is a lot more volatility generally, because without those government numbers kind of coming in there, everybody's going off private numbers. They're going off news events, headline events or whatever. And this is what you'll tend to see. So, we're kind of just sitting at this point. Everybody's freaking out and we haven't done anything yet. Now, if we zoom in a little bit local here, let's see, that was a week. Let's zoom into the 4-hour here. We've got some good movement off this low here from last Friday. Excuse me. Again, we caught this move up here. We got the pullback. We caught the breakout again up there. We pulled back. And so right now we've pulled back in 3 moves here to the weekly pivot. So if this weekly pivot holds, or this area right around here, we could dip a little bit lower into this. I don't think we do, but we could. But if we're breaking out above 116, 114 here on this chart, and this is the Coinbase chart, Bitcoin USD, our next 2 targets we're looking at locally are going to be that 119.070 and 127.14, which effectively takes us up here to, we've had these large fair value gaps here coming down on this 4-hour, and that kind of takes you back up there through them and over to that support, over to this support and that support. And if we're doing that, for me already, the fact that we've broken out above this 115, almost 116 area, that was what I was looking for to indicate that the low is likely in. So we've done that now. So, I mean, for me, I'm, looking upward anyway, but just based on this right here, getting above that 116, 114 gives us those 2 immediate targets there, and likely sends us up toward 133 really as the next bigger target. Now, do I necessarily want to get in a position this morning in really much of anything? Not really. I think if you're in a position and you're pretty good in profit, I think you're okay. But, with Jerome Powell coming up and speaking, that volatility should, be expected to really increase. And if you're just getting in a position, it can whipsaw back against you, knock you out before it continues, in whatever direction it's going to go. So, I'm a little hesitant always opening a position there on those FOMC days.
Yeah, why trade a news event? Right. And the S&P already kind of gapped up a little bit at the open. It's at 6,000 SPX over 6,900. So, we get that like anticipatory thing, and the market does something stupid. It's usually the wrong way, and everybody overreacts, and then it just kind of keeps doing what it's doing.
And then again, like I said, because the government shut down and no government numbers coming out, that volatility tends to be exponential even. So you're going to get more volatility, or you should expect more volatility than what you would normally expect anyway. It's just the way, people work. It's just the way these big companies work. But anyway, so I mean, I'm not hating Bitcoin right now. I'm looking for that next breakout higher to get up if you're not already in. I do, again, alts have been, really kind of a bit more difficult, but I've got some here that I'm really kind of interested in. We were the market wrap last night. One of the altcoins I mentioned was Trump, and that thing took off this morning. It's almost hit our target overnight. So that was a good one. So I won't be putting that one here. But this is Rose, and Rose has this nice kind of expansion into contraction. You've got this this bottom that's kind of gradually flattening out here. Usually that's an indication of a low forming and you're going to move up. We also have right here, we have this lower lows in price. We have higher lows here in the oscillator. So that gives us bullish divergence off these points. So I'm looking for a breakout here on Rose. If we can kind of find support here at this S1 pivot on the weekly, or the weekly S1 pivot, we're looking for a breakout above that 0.01717. That should give us an initial target up there, 0.01982 area. And then 0.02176 would be my next target. If we're popping up through there, I mean, I don't think it might necessarily go straight up. We could get like a move up into this supply here in this wick and a pullback and then going. But the next kind of structural target would be this 0.02712 area right there. So a lot of potential upside on Rose here if we can hold support here at this weekly S1 pivot and pop up higher. I do have a couple more here. Let me see. I've got CRV right here. And so, again, CRV, kind of the same thing. I mean, you have to understand we're consolidating. So, when you're consolidating like that, pretty much anything can happen. But we pulled back again to the weekly S1 pivot. We have slightly higher lows here on price, and we've got lower lows here on the oscillator. So hidden bullish divergence, which means continuation of the bullish trend. And so if we can kind of hold this S1 pivot area and break out above 0.5709, that would be an indication to go long. And your stop loss is always going to go right below, whatever I'm talking about here. It's got these pullbacks, the S1 pivot. Stop loss should be just below that. There's no reason to put it way down here. It makes no sense. Just put it right there below that. But if you get that breakout, the targets up there are 0.775, 0.7775, and 0.8450. So 84.5 cents there would be my two local targets getting here. By the way, if we hit these targets I'm talking about on these, then what you're going to be looking at is that the low is all but guaranteed to be in. I mean, you should be definitively long, looking for longs for alts if this happens, if these kind of happen here. And then we've got we got ZK here. ZK, I thought was interesting. Again, we got the pullback to the weekly S1 pivot. And all these, if you notice, we're resetting on the stochastic RSI here. This one has this very clearly defined kind of resistance coming down right prior to the pivot. So impulsive breakout and close above that, really above the pivot. I would say above the descending resistance, but the pivot's right there. So go ahead and say above 0.035. Should have us heading higher. And within that, I mean, you can look initially if you want. You can look right around this, let me see here. I can't get this pulling in. Right around this, what is this area right here? 0.04. That would be like an initial kind of target area. But I think if we're getting this breakout here, I think we're running it up here toward this previous kind of resistance area just prior to closing above this bearish fair value gap here at about 0.0508. Beyond that, the next target would be 0.06794 on that right there. And this is ZK USD. So, we've got some setups here. As always, I never say, hey, listen, you need to go right now.
If this happens, then you do this. It's not that hard,
if
guys.
not, then you don't. Exactly. You put your stop loss just below that recent swing low there. I see a lot of people that try to put their stop losses a lot lower because they're scared to lose money. The reality is you're going to lose money, as a trader. I've posted, I trade live with our students, 3 times a week. I traded Monday and Tuesday this week. I posted, the results of what happened. I had 2 wins, 1 loss on Monday. I had 2 losses, 1 win on Tuesday, and still made, decent money for both days. You can't be scared to lose money if you're trading because you're going to lose it from time to time because Nobody has 100% strike. You just can't. And the strike rate isn't the most important thing. It's what is your risk adjusted return? What is your profit factor? These kind of things. Those
like, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, it's the one thing that, that traders that are new to markets tend to ignore. They think, oh, I've got to get everything right. And the more perfectionist you try to be, coming from somebody who was raised to be a perfectionist, the more difficulty you're going to have in trading. You have to understand that there's, beauty in that chaos that's markets. And so your risk management becomes the most important thing you're doing out there. Your risk management, then your exit, then your entry. Your entry is the third most important thing of the three. But people focus on the entry. They focus on trying to get 100% strike rate. They don't think about their risk management. They're scared to put a stop loss in there because they think their stop loss is going to get hit. Listen, guys, if you're putting a stop loss in and it's getting hit consistently, that's information for you. That's telling you you're not understanding structure. You're not understanding where to put your stop loss. But again, that gets people fearful. They put it really low. And, it just becomes an all in every time they go in, no proper risk management. And that's really what's hurting people more than anything else. That's what's making them lose a lot of money, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's trading, man. It's like Sex Panther, 60% of the time it works every time.
That's right. That's right. I noticed you're with the movie quotes this morning. You've been hanging out with Mr. Andrew a little bit too much, maybe?
Maybe. I'm just like dead tired, and my brain has like reset to my most childish and like inane setting. I'm operating on like a 2. So, when in doubt, just quote funny movies that everyone knows. And I think today might have been my most like stumbled, confused intro I've ever done on the show. I came on, I was like, what's the word for it's just brutal.
There were words
you just couldn't find. You know what? I showed up for 2 days at 6 a.m. in Vegas for this.
There you go. Right. That's what it is.
Let them do Macro Monday without me. Could have.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Let Andrew just do it yesterday.
But here's the thing. The people, often look at me as just a technical trader, which I am, right? I trade based on the chart. I don't trade on narratives. I don't trade on news events, all that kind of stuff. But my background is in that, right? I've got an economics background. So I understand all these things. It's just, I understand them enough to know that what's going on with that is already in the charts. But, people tend to want to hear it. I mean, as you can see, as right? People come in, they want to hear narratives. They want to hear, what they believe is, something outside of just what's going on in the charts. They believe charts can't possibly tell you. But at the end of the day, when you understand that everything that happens, not just in trading, but in the world is based on social mood, right? When you really jump down that rabbit hole and you start understanding that, then you understand that, listen, when it comes to markets, the fastest way you understand that social mood, how people are feeling, because that's going to determine what's going on, is when where their money's going. Is their money going in? Is their money coming out? And once you understand that, you start front running everything else that's going on with all the news events. In life as a trader, it doesn't become easy, but it becomes a lot less difficult. And, that's the key, right? We're just trying to add up our probabilities, include as much of that as possible before we take a trade. So
smart guy. It's the reason I learned trading from this guy, and you should too. So check out TX West Capital, of course, on X, everything he has. Chris, I know I owe you a WhatsApp, but maybe we'll just announce that next week.
All right, man.
Because I don't have it. Yeah. And then we'll figure that out. And everybody else, I will be back tomorrow, hopefully better rested. That's the plan. And Chris, man, thank you so much, as always.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you.
All right, guys. See you tomorrow.
Let's go. Let's go.